I don't really expect anyone to believe anything I'm about to share right now, and in honesty, I couldn't blame them for thinking I was completely insane or trying to get attention with wild tales of fancy. Yet, I'll go ahead and share regardless. Perhaps I'll make a fool of myself, but that's nothing compared to what I honestly feel could happen if I didn't at least try. You see, as hard as it may be to believe, I truly feel if I don't share this information, people could get hurt, and I couldn't live with myself knowing I had just kept silent. Now, in order for me to warn you, I'm afraid you'll need to listen to my story. I'll try and be as brief as possible, but I can't afford to miss out the details either. It began last year at summer camp. I was having a bit of a hard time with the other kids, and the camp staff really couldn't be bothered to intervene. So I decided to take matters into my own, admittedly reckless hands. I slipped away from the main camp and into the nearby woods, if only to get away from the constant bickering and taunts. Now, before you ask, no, it wasn't the middle of the night. It was a warm afternoon and the sun shone down brightly. I made my way further into the woods until I found a clearing and sat down to brood over the injustices of being left in a camp I never even wanted to attend in the first place. All around me stood tall trees covered in leaves. The sounds of birds filled the air, and every now and then a summer breeze would pass over the area. Glancing around, I noticed a pond in the clearing, and thought nothing more of it as I went right back to sulking. It didn't take long, however, for me to feel goosebumps on my arms and legs, a shiver running down my spine as a sudden rush filled me, the feeling of fear. Yet as I suddenly looked up and around for the source, there was nothing to be seen. I must have stayed in that clearing for a few more minutes before I finally went back to the camp, a little shaken as the whole time I sat in the clearing. I kept getting a horrible feeling of dread with no logical reason behind it. That night I had a terrible nightmare. I was submerged in freezing water and gasping for breath as something dragged me down into the depths, kicking and squirming as I felt my lungs literally explode in my chest as murky water clouded my vision and unbearable cold surrounded my very being. I woke up to find myself dripping in a cold sweat and staring into pitch darkness. I was amazed that I hadn't screamed, yet my heart was racing and fear consumed me for the remainder of the night. The following day I endured the usual tasks of camp, and although the taunts and bickering weren't as bad as usual, I still didn't mingle very much with the other kids. Soon, I found myself drifting back to the clearing I had visited the previous day. This time, however, I felt myself drawn towards the pond, staring at the water, which seemed strange, almost akin to ink despite the sun shining down from above. Despite every sense dictating otherwise, I found myself kneeling down and extending my hand out, as if in a trance, dipping it into the water and feeling an instant rush of icy cold against my skin. Instantly, I tried to pull my hand out only to find myself grabbed by something in the pond, barely able to let out a cry of horror as my nightmare took on a horrific reality as my vision was clouded by murky water and the freezing cold assaulted my body, flailing madly as I tried to break free. Luckily for me, the camp staff that day must not have been completely incompetent because before I could succumb to the shock of the cold, I found myself pulled out of the pond by a large man, who quickly began to attend to me as he called on others for help. I never dared speak about being dragged in. As far as the camp was concerned, I had strayed from the group and slipped into the pond. My parents were informed, and both they and the staff labeled me irresponsible and lucky to be alive. You'd think that would have been the end of it. but you'd be wrong. Every night I experience the same horrible nightmares of my drowning in icy waters, of being dragged into the dark abyss, and every time I awaken, I'm in a cold sweat. Most disturbing, for me anyway, is that every time I find myself near a pool of water, be it a swimming pool, a pond, or even a bath, I keep getting a sense of terror so bad I shake, and try as I may to brave it. The moment I touch the water, a wave of icy cold fills my body, and I instantly flee, expecting something to grab me. My parents think this is some sort of traumatic stress and have begun to arrange for me to see a therapist, but I still wanted to share this with you because I wanted to warn you. I wanted to make sure that people know when they are advised to stay in groups, not to wander off. You really should listen. You never know what could be waiting for you.